and I currently work teaching one class per semester at Lebanon Valley College, a theater class. That's fine. I'm sorry, that's it. And I also oversee the Wig and Buckle program at Lebanon Valley College, which is a student-run theater program. So I have always had a love of children my entire life, but I also had a love of the arts. I started in performing arts almost 50 years ago, and I tell people it never left me. I can remember being a little girl standing behind a big red curtain, hearing the orchestra waiting to go on, saying, I will do this the rest of my life. And I did. So I moved to an island called Ocracoke Island in 2018 to take a sabbatical to study English as a second language and get my certificate in English as a second language. And while I was there, I worked at the school, and in the evening I directed their summer stock theater. And when school left out, I would go and sit on the beach, and I had a red notebook, and I plotted out how I would open a theater. I still have that notebook. It sits in my room where I can see it every day. At one point in my life, I almost purchased a theater in Litz with a friend of mine, but the theater was kind of upside down, and I would have taken on the debt, and I had small children at the time. I was a single mom, and I just didn't think I could balance my children, my career, and taking on a theater. So when I came home from the island after 9 months, I decided I was going to put my plan in action, and I found a spot inside a church called the St. James Players at 53 Chestnut Street in Lebanon. And it wasn't part of the church, it was kind of separate from the church, and it was for rent, but they told me it had been flooded, and that if I could clean it up, I could have the space, and we'd come to an agreement on money. So we spent 6 weeks cleaning it up. I opened with a show that everyone told me would fail because it was about the Holocaust, and I was told no one wants to hear about the Holocaust. I put my own money in. I put in $1,200 to start the show and to get the room cleaned up. And the show sold out, and we added shows. So it just goes to show you don't believe when other people tell you you can't do things. So we were very happy in our little space of 1,700 feet. Square feet, and it was a lovely space, and I would go from CTC, where I was working, to VOTEC, we used to call it VOTEC, to the theater, and I'd work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night with children, because that was my goal. I was going to build in Lebanon County what I didn't have as a child. I went to a local high school. I lived here all my life. I moved away many times during my life, but just keep coming back like a bad penny. So there we were for several years doing our thing with children every evening, and the church decided they had to sell the building. There were a lot of struggles. It was a wonderful congregation, wonderful people. We really worked well together. Even though the St. James Players does not have a religious affiliation, everyone in that church was so kind and generous to us, but the building had to be sold, and we all cried. I cried for 2 weeks. I tell people I cried for 2 weeks, and then I wrote to Dolly Parton, which I did, because I knew if Dolly Parton knew my plight, she would definitely help me. But she didn't return my letter, and I just think it got lost in the mail. So we set out to find a new location because I wasn't willing to give up. And lo and behold, we landed in the Lebanon Valley Mall across from Mancino's Pizza. There had been a child's playland in there, and I don't know what happened there, but they moved from there and moved to another location. And in January, it'll be January 2 years ago, we started building. And when I say we started building, my partner and I built it. We did not contract with people. I helped him hang drywall 20 feet up in the air, 12 feet sheets of drywall. I drywalled, I nailed, I screwed, everything you could imagine in building, we did. And it was the two of us day in and day out, and hands full of volunteers would come as they had time. Parents of the children that I work with, but they were all working parents and had families of their own, so they couldn't give a lot of time. And within 8 months, we had the theater built, 130 seats, with a tech room and a green room and a beautiful lobby, and we opened Newsies, which is a true story about children in New York City who sold newspapers on the streets, and they were being taken advantage of, and they started their own union, the first ever union run by children, and they were successful, and they got what they they basically made a compromise that things were better for them in their lives. So from there, we just continued to build, and we continued to have our theater. And I must tell you why we're called the St. James Players. It's really not that we were inside the St. James Church. There's two reasons. There's a beautiful St. James Theater in New York City, which I love to go to. And also, I grew up in that church. And there was a lady in that church by the name of Rosalie Keller. She eventually became Rosalie Brandt, and I adored her because she saw me for who I was. I was horrible at sports. I didn't care about sports. My school was very much into sports. I loved the arts, and any chance I could get, I was performing. And I cried one time at youth group, and Rosalie said to me, "Karen, what do you want to do? If you want to please other people, then you better change who you are. If you want to please yourself, stay exactly the way you are." So the St. James Church was very important to Rosalie, and she was a wonderful woman. She was a woman before her time. She was a single mother. She took in a child from her school. She worked for Lebanon City School District that had nowhere to go. She dressed in funky clothes. She wore crazy hats. She was so out there, and sometimes she even drank beer. So, and I grew up in a household that was never, ever permitted. And I just love this woman, and she mentored me and made me believe in myself in time in my life as a young child that I didn't believe in who I was, or that it was okay to be who I was. So that's one reason it's the St. James Players. The other is there's also a beautiful, beautiful theater in New York City. And if you look at our logo, and I have some papers here you can pass around, it's a dandelion, because I also love dandelions. Everybody thinks they're weak. I think they're beautiful. And the dandelion, all the little white puppy parts of the dandelion are little children, if you look at it closely. And they're floating away into the air. And those are the children that come to the St. James Players, who float out into our community and beyond and go on and do great things. So we have, I actually took a count, we have a roster of all the kids who've ever performed with us. And 60% of the youngsters who perform with us have some kind of a struggle. A learning struggle, autism, Down syndrome, broken families, no parents who've passed away, traumas that they have faced in their life. So these kids do not realize when they come with me that we're all the same. And we all can be wonderful. And it's okay if we don't like sports. And it's okay if we love to sing, and we love to dance, and we love to perform. All those things are okay. The kids have no idea, even the kids who have disabilities in that program. So we do something called Star Academy. Star Academy is right after school. It is open to ages 7 through 14. And we have a 6-week program. They come 3 nights a week where they learn stage presence, they learn dancing, they learn music, they even learn some technical things. They learn about costuming, and then they put on a show that anyone can come and see. And we make that programming. That happens 4 times a year during the school year, 1 per quarter, those of you who might be teachers. And then also a 2-week summer camp where they're there all day in the summer to include lunch. And then we also offer audition workshops. And just this week, I brought in a troupe called Willpower, and they're a Shakespearean troupe. And they came into my theater, and I had 120 children there to see A Midsummer Night's Dream. All of that is provided free of charge. You never pay to play when you come to the St. James Players. So that's our after-school programming and our education program, all free. And the way we do sign-ups are online, and parents sign their kids up. The first 10 spots out of 30 spots are reserved for new children, people we have never met. And the other 20 spots, anybody can sign up for. I do not cherry pick the children. Whoever signs up, that's who I get. So some kids come back time and time again. Some kids come for one time and figure, I tried this, it's not quite for me. And sometimes kids just come back now and then. In a given day at my theater, I can have 70 kids through that space. So that's our after-school education program. But we also have a main stage program. And those are the shows that we open auditions to ages 5 to 105. And we really look for adults that are mentors to our kiddos in those shows. We do 4 to 6 main stage shows a year. And those are evening shows that usually run for 2 weekends. We just closed The Canterville Ghost, which is a story by Oscar Wilde, who lived a couple hundred years ago. And our next production is called The Homecoming. How many people remember the Waltons on television? I love the Waltons. I remember when the Christmas special came out. It's the Christmas story of the homecoming. Now the names are a little different because Earl Hamner wrote Spencer's Mountain. That's a book. And then there was a TV show called The Homecoming, which was a Christmas story, and it has John Boy and Mary Ellen and Grandma and Grandpa and all those characters. But the play version is more after Spencer's Mountain's book. So the main character is Clayboy. But the story is the same. The names are a tad different. And that will be opening soon. There's a paper coming around that you can see. And we cast adults and kiddos in that show. It requires 22 actors, but I have a really difficult time turning people away, and we had to turn a few people away, but I cast 33 people. Because it's really hard for me to say, no, you can't be part of a show. So our stage only holds so many, and that's why I can't put 40 or 50 on the stage, but I try to take as many as I can in those main stage classes. I can tell you a little story about a little girl, and she did have a disability who came to me. And we had a Saturday rehearsal, which we typically don't do. Saturdays are kind of my days to work at the theater, get things cleaned up. But we needed a Saturday rehearsal, and she came in, and she was very quiet, and she sat quiet, and I finally said, "What's wrong, honey?" She said, "I'm hungry." And I said, "It's almost snack time, but I'll give you something now." And I went and got goldfish, and she ate the goldfish. And we do snack. That's the part I forgot to tell you. There's free snack every night, usually something relatively nutritious, fruit, goldfish, fish crackers, graham crackers. Everybody gets a snack. And when snack came around, she took another snack, which was perfectly okay. And when Mother came to pick her up, I said, "Your daughter was kind of hungry today. I wanted you to know that she got 2 snacks." Sometimes when parents say, "Well, she'll eat anything you give her. She's always hungry." And this mother looked down and started to cry and said, "We don't have food right now." If I had not had that Saturday rehearsal, I would not have known it. And I get choked up thinking about it. And I said, "That's an easy fix." I said, "This county has plenty of food, and we will get you food." And we very quietly delivered food to the household. So it's for me, it's much more than a theater. I have kids who have lost pets. They'll come to the theater and want to talk to me. I had a student that this is several years ago, someone in their class committed suicide, and the parents didn't know what to do, and the parents call me and I bring them in. We got this. So it's really so much more than a theater. And your generous gift will help us so much. It will help with snacks. It will help with their costumes. It will help with other needs. We had a little girl come and her zipper was out of her coat, and her coat was filthy. And I said, "Oh, honey, would you let me fix your coat?" And it was really beyond fixing. So mysteriously, the next rehearsal, there was a coat that got donated to me. I don't know where it came from. And I said, "I can't use this in the costume shop. Do you think you'd like it?" And that coat went home. So it's really much more than a theater. It's a passion of mine that I've wanted to do this all my life. And it took me much later in life to reach my goal. And if you're willing to work toward your goal, anything is possible. And I can tell you, these children, we've got our new space. We had $5,000 in this design things. So we're also mentoring people at the St. James Players. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Everyone who works at the theater does not get paid. I get paid nothing. My partner Steve Smith designs all of our beautiful sets. He designs our posters. The artwork in front of you today, he designed. He's a graphic artist. He owns the graphic arts design. He's retired too, but he still owns the business in Shillington, Pennsylvania. And none of us take a cent. And I can tell you, at least 5 days a week, I'm there 12 hours. Because it just takes a lot of time to prepare for that many children and get everything ready. Has anyone here seen any of our shows? A couple people. Our tickets are truly only $15. We are the cheapest in the area. When we find out there's someone that can't afford a ticket, they get tickets. Our Shakespeare group that came in, what day did they come in? Thursday. They were there on Thursday. Lo and behold, I contacted this Shakespeare group in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I used to live there and work for a performing arts high school. And they were $2,100, and I'm like, it's not quite the budget. And we got to talking. Here we know various people from me living in that county, and they know my daughter-in-law really well, and they said, what would you say if we told you we're going to come and do it for free? I'd say, sign me up. I had a week's notice. We reached out to Cedar Crest High School because I used to work for them as well, and within days they had 2 buses full of children. And there were children in those buses that had never been to a live performance and had never been to a theater like mine, and they loved it. And I was able to let 80 kids come for free to see William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. And you would think those kids would be bored with that. They were on the edge of their seats watching. It was a wonderful time. So because of your generosity, we'll be able to keep going, keep buying those snacks, and have coats show up when we need coats, and clothing show up when we need clothing. And we're very grateful, we're very thankful to the Women's Club. And we hope you come and see a show.